Welcome back to the Real Bodybuilding Podcast, guys. This is episode number 185, and I am here with the talk of the classic bodybuilding world, Wesley Vissers. How are you, brother? How's it going?
Yeah, what's up? Thanks for having me. I'm doing very well, super excited. I think as of this day, it's 9 days out from the Olympia, so very exciting stuff. In 2 days, I'm leaving for Las Vegas, and then it really begins.
So what begins when you get there? Because I remember when I was competing, there's a lot of waiting. I mean, there's training and there's packing, but then there's a period of time where the excitement starts to build and you're kind of waiting to get on stage. Do you experience that, or are your days filled with things from here all the way to the show?
Yeah, there will be some days that are a bit more quiet, but most days will be filled with stuff to do.
Yeah.
Especially the first day, of course, you got to get all your groceries. That's the first thing you got to do. Get settled. I like when I get ready for another country, of course, I want to take as much as I can from my home situation to where I'm staying.
Okay.
So the Airbnb will be filled to the brim basically with everything that I'm used to here to keep the routine going. So I always pick a flight that is nice and early in the day
Mhm.
so that I'm arriving mid-afternoon or early afternoon so I can pack everything in the Airbnb
Yeah.
to put everything in place, then do the groceries to get everything done for the week in terms of groceries, and then going to the gym. Usually, that's the routine.
So Wesley,
Um,
sorry, Wesley, can I interrupt? When you say you bring as much stuff from home as possible, what exactly are you talking about? I'm just curious. Like, because when I go, I don't bring anything. I'm like, whatever's at the Airbnb. Well, because you bring a scale and you bring certain things, but like, what exactly do you? Is there other things you're bringing? Like,
yeah, like you have like I have three suitcases.
okay,
So one one suitcase will be for the meet and greet
yeah,
because I noticed at the Arnold Classic, especially after winning the first one, at the second one, there was a huge line, and at the meet and greet, you have the opportunity to sell your apparel,
right,
such as what I'm wearing right now, for example. So it's a
right,
big opportunity for people to support you
sure,
locally because I'm from the Netherlands. So getting
yeah,
something all the way across to the USA is sometimes not as easy for people with shipping.
right,
So when I'm there, I like to provide that stuff for people. And so that's one suitcase. The other suitcase will is usually a lot of supplements. So I like to take like I have my specific breakfast and post-workout meals, which
okay,
usually consist of like rice flour and whey. And those are already big parts because I just take 2 tubs of whey with me, a huge rice flour container
yeah,
that's already that weighs quite a lot. And then all the other supplements, as you know, the pre-workout, the aminos, the EAAs,
mm.
all the pills, the omega-3s, the magnesium, all that stuff, because
So
I
you,
think health is super important.
so you run all of that. Well, obviously the magnesium and the vitamins, I understand, but you take all the supplements all the way up to the show. There's nothing that you pull out. Like you won't, because a lot of guys I know, like the last week before a show, they'll take out whey protein powder, or they'll take out their EAAs, or they'll start to like reduce any extras and just do whole food. So you're keeping all of your supplements in all the way to the show.
Yeah, because at first I always thought, well, maybe I can edge out just a bit better shape, a bit less water retention if I take that out. But
Yeah,
if you already look great doing all of this stuff anyway, why would you then change your
right,
routine, have to replace it with other stuff
right.
of which you don't know the outcome? And when it's already going really well, why would you change it? And I really trust the supplements that I do take.
Right.
And I've never experienced any downside to using like the sweeteners, which people would be afraid of, or
Yeah.
something like this.
Yeah.
But I actually think that supplements like EAAs or a pre-workout, it helps me get through these workouts. Like part of it is like physical because you're then getting the anti-catabolic effects and the drive to work out, but also a
Yeah.
placebo effect because you've been taking it so long already. You're like, if I take it out now and I'm so low in energy, will it take away from the workout, or
Makes
will
sense.
I then actually be a bit more catabolic? So I might
Right.
as just well keep it nice and consistent.
Right.
And when you look good already. So yeah, I don't change it, stuff like this.
Let me ask you a question based on somebody else. If you were, do you coach anybody?
Not anymore.
Okay, so let's say you were coaching somebody if they were having trouble getting in shape or getting dry, would you still do the same protocol? Would you pull out any little thing that you could pull out?
Well, usually if they have trouble staying in shape, it's due to the body fat percentage still being too high.
Right.
So if I would have coached that person, I should have seen that weeks beforehand already that something is going on with we're not on track. And only when you start hitting a plateau in terms of the look not changing, but you just know for sure they're in a caloric deficit.
Right.
One of the things you can do is try to change like the amount of, because usually people they increase the sweeteners,
Yeah.
the sodas, the sauces they use. So you might
Yeah.
want to ask them, have you tried to make your food more palatable or more delicious by adding all of these things
Right.
in and
Right.
getting through the day easier? And if they say yes, then you might want to drop that back to a baseline they were used to before, because
Right.
then that might interact with how you look. But if it's the same the whole way through, I don't think it's going to affect you
Right.
negatively that
Right.
much.
You said you bring rice flour. So
Yeah.
a lot of guys do cream of rice. Well, I know what rice flour is, but why rice flour? And do you just feel it digests better? Do you feel like it's a better source of carbs? Is rice like, explain to me the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so first of all, in the Netherlands, the rice flour is basically just like any other flour. It's used by bakeries to make, baked goods or certain breads or stuff like that. So you can buy it in bulk,
Right.
which is super cheap.
Okay.
So yeah, so people make the mistake. Sometimes they buy rice flour made for babies because it's the best digestible carb source there is, basically.
Right.
But that's very, very expensive because it's tested for a lot more stuff to be perfect for, of course, an infant, so it's not
Right.
dangerous.
Right.
But if
Right.
it's
Right.
for a bakery to buy in bulk, it's going to be a lot cheaper. So
Right.
first thing is just price. But secondly, rice flour is indeed, as you say, a very digestible carb source. It's easy to use. And if you compare it to cream of rice, the orange box we all know from the
Yeah.
USA, which I used to be very jealous of, you can't get it here. But it's fortified with other minerals, such as also iron.
Okay.
And if you then, for example, when I'm loading for the show and there might be like 600 grams of cream of rice going in then,
Yeah.
if not more, then you're going to get in a lot of iron, which if you also eat meat and as a bodybuilder, you don't need extra hematocrit going up
Right.
or
Right.
hemoglobin. So you don't want your iron to go up too high. So it's 2 meals a day. I always use the rice flour because it's literally blended up rice.
Sure.
So it gives you more variety in the type of meal you can make because I can make it nice and sweet
Yeah.
as a counterpart to the savory meals that you would otherwise have. So when I'm loading, for example, the first meal would be the rice flour, which is sweet. The second meal, a regular rice meal, which is savory, and then you alternate in
Go back and
between so
forth.
you don't get that taste fatigue. And it's
Right.
much easier to load, in my opinion, that way as well.
That's so fucking well thought out. I didn't even know about the iron thing. That's kind of new to me now. So, well, there you go. A whole bunch of people you just might have helped a whole bunch of people with that. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's go back. I know we're not here to talk about your suitcases, but I'm curious. So you have a suitcase for the meat, suitcase for the meat and greet, suitcase for the supplements. Third suitcase is what? Just clothing, obviously, and all your stuff.
Yeah, clothing, bathroom stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, there's always like that's also part of the routine. I like in classic, like in open bodybuilding, doesn't matter what you look like,
Right.
basically, in
Right.
your face and your hair and stuff like this. But as a classic physique guy nowadays, especially when you're nearing the top, you gotta represent your brand, the
Right.
classic
Right.
physique brand as well.
Right.
So it sounds strange, but I also take makeup with me,
No
like a
way.
foundation,
Yeah.
because you sometimes see those guys, especially in the open, they have like a wider face and then
Mm-hmm.
the perfectly tanned body.
Mm-hmm.
It simply distracts.
Yeah.
It distracts from the total package, even though it's not about the face.
I agree.
Even still, you're like, there's something off about this total package. Also, when you just look at the pictures, like the first thing you
Right.
see is the face and then the body. I mean,
Right.
that's
Right.
not
Right.
how it's supposed to be. But
Right.
if it's everything is like nice and equal, you don't see any blemishes or anything, you can, because when you tan your face, and because we tan ourselves with like a paint roller, old school style,
Yep.
you can't really tan the face that well in
Sure.
comparison to like a spray tan. But
Yeah.
even if you get a spray tan, you touch your face a lot more often than your body usually. And to really get a perfect look for the face as well, to match the body, that's where I use that special foundation for, which of course my girlfriend helped me with to choose. But that really helps with the look, and also all the pictures you take afterwards,
Yeah.
it's really looks much better. So it's all these things I like to take with me to make sure that everything just flows in the best
Yeah.
possible way.
I never considered that the classic guys have an extra element to think about. Because you're right, like in bodybuilding, you can be ugly, your hair can be messed up, you can be like you said, your tan could be off in your face.
Yeah.
Do all the classic guys think like you think? Like they all realize that there's an extra element that has to be considered?
Yeah, the top guys do because I think at least the top five of last year, they all wore some kind of makeup or did something with their face or hair to
Yeah.
make them stand out a bit more. Because it also creates kind of your own brand. Especially this
Sure.
year, you can see it. Everybody has their own hairstyle, like
I
Chris with the
noticed.
mustache,
Yeah.
Urs with the Dragon Ball hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got some other, like Ramon also always has something interesting going on with his hair. It's never like normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just trying to be like the old school guy. So being the regular guy makes you stand out then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Ur's hair. And then you're like, yeah, you're the old school guy. You
Just
got,
a normal, just
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You don't do the mustache or anything. You just very, very clean cut. Um, okay. So my question then originally, when I was kind of talking about you getting into Vegas on the down days where it's not so busy, you've got your Airbnb set up,
Mhm.
you're waiting for the meet and greet and stuff. On those days, I know some guys will go to the mall, they'll go kind of sightseeing. Some guys will lay in their hotel room and not move. What is your what does your week look like on your down days?
Yeah, so the first time was ever in Las Vegas was 2018 for my first Mr. Olympia, and that's where I made that mistake. Especially because it was my first time as
Yeah.
a somebody from Europe. I was like, oh, I gotta see this. I gotta see this strip. But the
Yeah.
problem is the temperature. Back then it was even in September, so it was even a bit
Yeah.
more hot compared to what it will be now. It's still gonna be hot,
Yeah.
but in the Netherlands, it's like I don't know if you know Celsius, but it's
Yeah.
more than 20 degrees Celsius hotter in Las Vegas now
Yeah.
than in the
Yeah.
Netherlands. So it's going to
Yeah.
be a big difference. So if I'm going to be walking around a lot outside, especially, it's going to probably impact my physique. So I try to minimize that. But at the same time, I still need my 10,000 steps a day because that's part of the routine that's going to
Okay.
remain. So I do think that, going like when I go to the grocery store, and I think you hear this from quite a lot of European guys, it's fun for us.
Yeah.
It's fun to look
It's like
around to
that.
see what
It's like that for Canadians too.
okay.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, so we just yeah, we just are in awe of what they have, and we already take stuff with us. We're gonna take with us at home to our
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And that's where I get a lot of my steps in, actually. So just walking around the grocery store, it's nice and air conditioned. Of course, it's not super hot there, but you wanna look out that you're not doing too much and you're
Sure.
not um, literally overstepping what you're normally doing at
Yeah. Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
Because that was my big mistake at the first Mr. Olympia I ever did, and that's really cost me my placings
Hmm.
because I had a lot of water in my legs. It was just not a good look, and you want to prevent this. So every single day, of course, I'm doing a check-in with my coach as well. So in terms of there won't be so many boring days because of course I also have my sponsor ESN who will be going there. They're also one of the sponsors of the Olympia. They have a
Yeah.
booth there. So they also request me to record some videos, like a vlog as well. We're also taking a videographer with us that's
Yeah.
actually living with me to record everything. And there's always something to record or to say. So
Right.
I'm never really bored there. And yeah, It's the meet and greet is a Thursday, and I'll be there Saturday. So it's just a couple of days that you gotta bridge until that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And the meet and greet will be like a super busy day for me because I am also gonna be, yeah, I'm just gonna be busy on that day. Let's just say that
Yeah.
the weigh-in will be in the morning. In between the weigh-ins and the meet and greet will be the press conference, and then the meet and greet itself, which will be at least 2 hours. So it's gonna be a packed day. And yeah, and then the next day is going to be the day before the contest, which is already uh, exciting, of course.
Are
So
are
yeah,
are you excited for the press conference? Because I know I've this has been like a hit and miss thing with athletes. Some athletes love it, and some athletes, they want to do it, but they also like interrupts their training or their day, or they're just getting ready. So, are you excited to
yeah,
sit down as one of the guys? This year has been pretty. I know you've been on the rise for a long time, but this year was really your breakout year where everybody's really taken notice of somebody who could potentially win the Mr. Olympia. So, are you excited to sit down at that press conference as a challenger for the title and not just somebody who's there, in a just to be there?
yeah, that's for sure. Because one of the things that me and my family have talked about always is whenever we go to the Olympia, it's like it's two feelings. One feeling is you're honored to do the Olympia, but at the same time, you kind of know, yeah, we're going for a top five spot, but in the back of our heads, we kind of know, are we really going to make it? Are we going to even do our posing routine? So
Right,
you're pretty much there for the prejudging, even though it's the biggest investment you're making of the whole year.
right.
So now that I'm taken seriously, so you're taking into the press conference, people are actually believing in you that you can have a top placing.
Yeah,
It's worth a lot for us because it makes it that much more exciting that we are coming all the way from the Netherlands, of course. So the bigger the splash we can make, the more worthy it is of the investment we're making. So that's, to me, it's an honor to be part of it for the first time ever.
hmm,
I've always thought about, okay, how do I get in that hype, because normally you kind of feel like somebody on the outside trying to
yeah,
get in,
yeah,
and it was never really enough. But now, of course, after the Arnolds, we made a statement, and
yeah,
yeah, I think the press conference will be quite exciting,
yeah.
an exciting start for the Olympia for sure.
Okay, I want to go back to your year in a second, but one thing you said to me earlier about cardio, I want to touch on it really quickly, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but you said something about steps, and it's funny because somebody just asked, a fan just asked on the podcast about steps and cardio. So when you're doing when you're planning your cardio for the seat for your prep, is it done by steps, or is it done by cardio, or is it done by both? Like, do you do traditional cardio where it's like, 45 minutes on the step mill or treadmill plus steps, or is it all done with steps, or how is your cardio set up?
Yeah, so the steps are always the biggest factor. My prep usually starts with at least 10,000 steps, but honestly, that's what I do in the off season anyway.
Yeah.
But then it's always really consistent. So you're never, even if you're sitting on the couch in the evening, you're like, well, I need 1,000 more steps. But in the off season, you're sometimes like, oh, this is enough. Like 9,000 is close enough. But of course, in the contest prep, it's never going to be enough until you hit that number.
Right.
So you start with steps, you ramp up the steps, and at some point where you're seeing a decrease in progress, then you start the actual cardio, which for
Okay.
me, honestly, it hasn't been that much, maximum of 35 minutes in the morning on the resistance bike that I have here at home. So it's just very easy. You wake up, you hydrate yourself, you do your cardio, and then you basically start the day.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing for a couple of months now. It's just a nice start. It's at one point you don't even not want to do it. So when the coach
Okay.
tells you we're done,
Yeah.
conditioning is done, you're like, oh, but it's now part of my routine. It's like
Right.
part of what I'm doing.
Right.
And
Right.
once
Right.
you stop, yeah, once you stop doing it, it's like you're missing something from the structure of the day.
Right.
And it's also nice because you wake up, usually you're a bit hungry, but then I drink a liter of water and do my cardio. You kind of extend the first meal automatically with like
Yeah.
an hour if you count everything together.
Yeah.
So that's always nice, convenient as well. But when you wake up and the only thing that's left to do is the first meal, it's like, yeah, it's more difficult actually.
I know it is.
You might as well just get into the routine and be mindless about it and just do it
Yeah.
and execute,
Well, it's
knowing that it's gonna progress you forward.
right.
So yeah, but
Well,
it hasn't really gone beyond 35 minutes. So I do that
yeah.
in combination with the maximum steps I did was 13,000 a day.
Yeah.
So it's not nothing extreme, but that's what I needed to do also to keep my legs intact
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to actually keep their increased size compared to the Arnold, because that for me is of course very important.
Right. I was going to say it actually shortens your day, or sorry,
Yeah,
makes it makes your day longer when you take away the cardio. Like when my
yeah,
coaches would say to me, "All right, remove the cardio," it would actually depress me because if you get up at like 7 a.m., by the time you kind of get all your stuff together and you do your cardio and you get home, it's like nine. So you've killed like 2 hours.
yeah,
Whereas,
exactly.
so now it's easier to get your 5 or 6 meals in for the day because you
Yeah,
took 2 hours away. Whereas
yeah,
if you get up at 7 a.m. and you eat right away, now you're like, oh shit, I got to space out these meals. And you actually,
yeah,
and plus, like you said, you start to get in this real rhythm where you feel like you're making great progress. And when they say don't do cardio, even though you know in the back of your mind it's good for your progress, you kind of don't want to stop because you feel like you need it. You know what I mean? So I hear what
yeah,
you're saying on that.
yeah.
Where did the 10,000 steps come from? Is that arbitrary? Is it hard to get in? I've never counted my steps. Is 10,000 steps a lot to get in every day?
No, sometimes it happens automatically, but sometimes you got to do like an extra round of walking because how my day is structured is so first I do the cardio, breakfast. After breakfast, I walk with the dog and the family. So important for me to have that time with the children. As on prep, it's important to get that balance down, as you as
Yeah.
you have talked about quite a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the way for me to kind of balance it out because I have to walk anyway, so I might as well walk with the family, with the children, to get to combine that together.
Right.
And then I usually after that go to the gym. In the gym, I walk in between sets. I'm always like, okay, you're there for 1.5 to 2 hours.
Yeah.
It literally doesn't. You don't spend an extra second there, but you can do like 3 to 4 thousand steps without expending more time, which is the huge benefit. Because if you don't walk in between sets at all, and you're going home and you're seeing in the evening you still need 5,000 steps to go, then it's actually way more fatiguing mentally and physically to still get
Right.
up, go outside, and maybe it's raining or maybe it's shitty weather, and you still got to do all of those steps rather than just do a set of leg extensions, walk one set around one round around the gym,
Yeah.
do another set. When I have a rest, usually my rest times now are 3 minutes. So I do 3 minutes of walking, just slow paced,
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing that hinders my recovery. It actually helps recovery, which has been proven
Yeah.
also. And then you get so many steps in, and by the time I'm done with working out, I'm already usually around 8,000 steps. So then it happens automatically with the rest of the day that I'm, getting those steps in. So it's not difficult, but it stems from uh, non-exercise activity thermogenesis,
Yeah.
which is NEAT, which
Yeah.
is the abbreviation, of course.
Yeah.
So that actually burns more calories than direct cardio would, because if you spread out all of those steps throughout the day, if you would do them all at once, it would be a long session of cardio
Right.
to
Right.
burn equivalent amount of calories. But if you spread it out, it's less fatiguing. Your body is literally made to walk, so it's very, um, you know, every muscle, every joint is built to walk. So it's not damaging at all. It's not fatiguing to ligaments or tendons.
Right.
So it
Right.
doesn't bother your workout, your leg training, stuff like this. As opposed to doing like a Stairmaster, for me, I know for sure it would hinder my leg workouts and the leg fullness I would retain.
Right.
So the steps throughout the day really helps me burn the fat without any cost other than the fat you burn. So that's
Right.
for
Right.
me the
Right.
perfect solution.
This is I'm kind of old school in my thinking, and I'm not, and I really like what you're saying because it's obviously new to me. Not new to me. I know people have been doing this for a little while, but it's a newer way than I used to do it. Because when I was prepping, it's like cardio didn't count unless you were on a machine, with a heart rate at like 120 to 140, whatever nonsense steps you did walking around, that didn't count. That didn't, right?
Yeah.
But it does count, and you're right, and everything you're saying is right. And I don't think people ever really looked at it that way until maybe the last few years. But I don't know. I can't imagine like doing a set of squats and then walking around for 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, it makes total sense. I just is
And
it
honestly, it's been a hack in my preps because you
yeah,
got to imagine. I think the old school guys, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong,
yeah,
but you used to ramp up the time of cardio the closer you get to the show because you got to burn more fat, just a little
right,
bit more.
right.
But the reason why you're ramping the cardio up because you uh, subconsciously are doing less steps
Yeah,
because your need is going down because you're tired all the time.
yeah,
So if you count the steps, you can compensate for you not doing the steps without realizing it, and you
right,
actually don't increase the cardio at all.
right.
That's why I can keep it consistent. So the background burning of fat remains the same the whole prep through, and you can only play with the food amount.
Yeah,
So of course it helps near the end or near the middle of the prep to increase cardio a little bit to speed things up if necessary, if you're somebody who's hungry sooner. So you can
yeah,
choose, okay, let's up the cardio and not lower the food as much. But if you're not struggling with appetite, you can actually choose to lower the food, but keep cardio the same or even non-existent for some people.
yeah,
And in that case, you can still make the exact same fat burning process as somebody doing an hour of cardio. But
yeah,
because they're doing that hour of cardio afterwards, the steps they're taking is very little. Because you got to imagine, as a professional bodybuilder, most of us weigh quite a lot. So it's
yeah,
not just strolling around like it's nothing. We actually burn quite a lot of calories just walking around because most of the prep I'm above 250 pounds.
yeah,
So then every step you take is you gotta lift that 250 pounds off the floor. And if you spread that out over 10,000 steps, it's going to be quite a lot of
yeah,
calories.
yeah,
Now for smaller athletes or females, it might be a different story, but I'm not uh, very versed in those
yeah,
kind of people. I've never coached those people, but for me personally,
yeah.
steps is just the best way to go.
Listen, I think it makes total sense because you're right. Because a lot of guys, I mean, I've done preps where I've done it the reverse way, where I've started with a lot of cardio and then ramped it down because I got in shape early and then took away some
Mhm.
cardio. But you're right. Traditionally, cardio goes up. And the thing is, as guys start to lose body fat and they get more shredded, they get lazier and they just watch
Yeah,
TV all
yeah.
day and whatever. So you're right. So then the cardio has to be even harder because you're not doing anything all day long. So it makes a lot of sense. And to be honest with you, the proof is in the pudding. Like, I mean, your condition all year round. Like, I don't think I've ever seen you out of shape. So even in the off season, the steps is something that you're doing. Like, you're pretty mindful of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, because ultimately, as strange as it sounds, the prep starts the moment that pretty much the prep never ends. Because in the off season, if you don't take those steps and you let your body fat go up too high, that means you have to alter your prep. So the off season determines the type of prep you're going to have.
Right.
So, for example, I follow John Jewett, and I know that you're a fan of him as well in terms
Yeah.
of what he's achieving and how smart he is.
Yes,
So
definitely.
he says the same thing. Basically, off season is prep with more calories,
Yes.
but the rest doesn't really change. And because it doesn't change, your body fat stays, it creeps up slowly, but only slowly enough for you to make progress in the gym, progress in the mirror, of course, the way you look, and the strength and fullness and weak muscle groups are being filled in. As
Right.
long as that happens and you can keep your body fat quite low, the prep is going to be so much easier, which for me is the same thing that happened after the Arnold Classic. I used to be a guy that I always ate pretty clean, but I used to go out for dinner quite a lot more or have little snacks here and there or just totally different kind of meals, more of a flexible diet
Yeah.
in comparison to just, okay, these are the 6 meals you're going to eat,
Yeah.
and that's just going to be it. And of course, here and there, the only addition would be like an apple here or a little bit extra there, but nothing to the extreme where I could keep my body fat quite low relatively for an off season. And the moment you start prep, it goes really quickly.
Right. Right.
Like
Right.
you make so much progress and you have a lot more time to make progress as well, which is what I noticed in this prep. because the Arnold Classic prep went so well, because the same thing happened there. I came straight off the Olympia, and that Olympia to the Arnold was quite close together.
Yeah.
And this Arnold to this Olympia is a little bit more further apart, but still close enough for me to keep quite a lot of lines in my physique.
Sure.
And they will show a lot better now again at the Olympia stage, that's for sure.
So all year round, you're just doing the same diet every day. You don't really need to change anything. Do you do cheat meals? Are you just like, this is my diet and that's it? You just did it all year round?
Yeah, basically, the diet is pretty much the same, because at one point I'm satisfied with the amount of food I'm eating anyway,
Right.
because I have a very adaptive metabolism. So when I am in the off season, like my calories goes ×2, and even then at some point I start to plateau again. But then for the prep, I have to cut it down in half
Right.
eventually. So
Right.
the difference is quite big, because my metabolism adapts, but because it adapts also upwards, you can eat quite a lot of volume and food. And I like to cook. So I like to experiment with spices, herbs, different vegetables, which for me is the variety I need.
Right.
I
Right.
love the food I eat anyway.
Right.
So of course I change up like shrimp, chicken, turkey, lean beef, white fish. Like I like almost every food that exists. I like, and I know
Right.
exactly how I can switch them out for the same macros.
Right. Right.
And usually it's just a rice base, but the herbs and spices that I add are very different. And also the vegetables. It's like I might eat like 10 plus different vegetables every single day.
Right. Right.
Like our
No,
fridge is stocked.
yeah, that's a little different. I think I'm comfortable with that. That's similar to like how my off seasons went. If I can switch the foods, like
Yeah.
basically it's like if it fits your macros within a set of foods. So you're
Yeah.
saying like within these 5, 6, 7 proteins, I can interchange them per meal. And then
Yeah.
your vegetables you interchange throughout, like, and I'm kind of the same way. If it's like if I'm having a chicken and rice, one day I can have it with like red peppers and onions. The next day I can have it with mushrooms and zucchini. I feel like I'm getting a little bit of variety and it can keep me going that way. So I
I think it's
totally,
even better.
yeah, it is actually, yeah. No, I understand that completely. Originally I thought you meant you were eating the same meal and the same plan every day for the year. And I was like, oh,
No,
that's psycho.
no, it's not.
Sorry.
It's not that extreme, because
Okay.
yeah, if you would do that, it would not, it would mentally and physically even be worse
Right.
than
Right.
if you would
Right.
have the variety in your diet.
Right.
I mean, some people need that consistency because they are not equipped to know how to switch things around, or they're getting stressed because of it. They're not sure, is this going to yield the same result? But if you're positively sure about it,
Right.
then you can do it easily, and it will only make you more progress, because you're getting in those extra minerals and vitamins that comes from those different food sources anyway. So
Agree.
then throughout the week, you're getting a lot more nutrition in compared to not doing it at all.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I want to ask you, when you go to Vegas and actually throughout your prep as well, I thought you had one son. You have two children?
Yeah, one son and one daughter.
How old's your daughter?
Two,
And how old's the son?
4.
Okay, so this is something I've always felt lucky. Well, I shouldn't say lucky. Lucky's the wrong word. One of the things that I felt like it was easier during my time as a bodybuilder was that I didn't have kids, because everybody I
Hmm.
see that has kids, their kids snack and they have cookies and they have this and that. And, they have sugar cereals or whatever, your kids have snacks. And I always felt bad for the bodybuilders that had kids, because I'm like, these guys have to diet with all this shit around all the time and all the kids eating all these snacks all the time. So how do you, in the off season, do you partake in that with them during prep? How do you deal with it? Like, obviously you're just not gonna, because you're a professional, but
Yeah.
does it make it tougher, or do you enjoy watching them eat even though you can't?
Well, actually, our children don't really snack that much food
Okay.
that I would. Yeah, because we live in a family, like my girlfriend Marley, she's also a very healthy oriented person.
Okay.
She's done also like body fitness, which was kind of like a figure class
Mhm.
in here in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So she knows exactly how to eat healthy as well. She's still, working out herself multiple days a week. We both own the gym together. So
Okay.
let's just say our children are growing up in a healthy household, but of course not super strict that they're deprived of any snacks at
Yeah.
all. So
Yeah.
it's like a healthy balance. But honestly, it helps me because sometimes I make dinner for them,
Yeah.
for the family,
Yeah.
and it's of course different compared to my own meal.
Right.
But I'm still then like my meal would be an hour later because I spread out my meals a bit more. They have dinner at a set time because of the bedtime, for example. So I actually get to experience cooking with food I would like to eat,
Right.
but I know I can't. But because you're a professional, you're not eating it anyway. So I
Of
don't
course.
struggle with that fact. But it's like it's still nice to be able to handle the food and to make a nice meal out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then still have the feeling that you made some delicious meal for your family. And you're like, oh, in the off season, maybe I'll try this myself as well.
Yeah.
So I like to watch them enjoy the food they can. I'm not influencing them at all.
Yeah.
They can do whatever they want. I've never found it troubling to watch them eat something delicious because sometimes Marley makes homemade pizzas or homemade pasta because she really loves that stuff, or homemade bread, and just
Yeah.
imagine the smell in the house
I
then.
know. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's all like I'm just telling her, just don't forget to make this for me after the
Yeah.
Olympia too,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
that's all because I like to see them enjoy the food, and the children actually help me get through prep easier. And it sounds strange, but you the neat activity sometimes, even if you don't feel like moving,
Right. Right.
you don't have a choice. You
Right. Right.
see, you got to clean up after them. You got to, bring them to school, for example, or walk. When you're doing a simple walk outside, if you are alone, you'd be done in like 15, 20 minutes. But with the children, it sometimes takes a lot longer,
Right.
which makes a day shorter for like the waiting game for food, for example, or
Of
for your
course.
next meal. So it
Yeah.
keeps you busy physically and mentally. You
Yeah.
burn more calories. So I always look at the positive that's coming from something that people might think would be a negative thing.
Hmm.
So of course I love them as well. So for me, it's just
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
of it enriches my life. Let's just say
Right.
that.
Well, don't get me wrong. I hope I didn't. I hope I didn't come across as it seeing it as a negative thing. I mean, look, I don't have children. I wish I would have had children. I'd love to have children. So it's definitely not a negative thing. And I can imagine that even though you can't eat the homemade pizza and pasta, it's probably, like you said, very a joyful experience to watch them enjoy it while
Yeah,
you're. It almost would make the suffering, like if I can imagine if I was in your shoes, it would make the suffering more worth it because
true.
your success is benefiting your children.
Yeah.
So, um, let me ask you this: moving towards bodybuilding more, how does it feel to have the breakout year that you've had? Because the Arnold Classic was a completely different look than you've ever brought before, I think, to a lot of people. Like, you've obviously brought in good looks, you've always had a crazy physique, but what you brought at the Arnold was something really special. I mean, I remember broadcasting with Dennis James, and Dennis said to me, I know he doesn't look like Chris in terms of the balance. He goes, but that physique is what classic bodybuilding is. So it was almost like there was all of a sudden this new debate as to what is the standard, what should classic be like. I heard this debate going on amongst other people as well. So how does it feel being that guy that's like, oh wait, maybe this is the standard for classic? Like, was this all new to you? Did it add a lot of pressure? Is it pressure you were happy to receive? Explain to me your year after the Arnold.
Yeah, I'm very happy to receive that kind of pressure because it's not negative pressure to me at all. This is something I've been striving for many years. Because even at like when I first turned pro in 2018, and when I won my first pro show after that and did the Olympia, I already had like I was quite popular on YouTube already
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
started that quite early. So I had quite a lot of feedback from people already telling me, wow, you really look like the golden era bodybuilding, what classic bodybuilding really
right,
stands for, and stuff like this. And every time I did a competition, even though I didn't always win, of course, people would still say, this is the physique we want to see. So very slowly on the background, that has been building
yeah,
towards now the climax, which was the Arnold Classic, where a lot more people. were exposed to my physique, and I have to say the overwhelming response has been positive about it.
Yeah.
And when I look at the pictures as well, I knew I had to change something compared to the competitions before because people kept hammering on either conditioning or the balance with the upper and lower body.
Right.
So I knew I had to do something about it, and at the Arnold, everything finally came together, especially because by luck of the draw, I was in the first call out, like the alphabetical call out
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Ramon and Urs all in the same call out,
Yeah.
like right next to each other. And then the very first thing that the judges then saw was the comparison of me and Ramon, like literally next to each other. And then you would think beforehand, oh, Ramon is going to win that Arnold because he's
Yeah.
Ramon, he's the defending champion. But once I stood next to him,
Yeah.
the argument all of a sudden died. It was like, wait a second, we gotta review this again because
Right.
it's not clear cut anymore at all. And
Right.
that's why I'm saying this is that's what I heard a lot of people say when I reviewed the live streams, because as it was happening, I was curious what were people really thinking at that very moment. Because for me, it was a surprise, to be honest, as well, to win that Arnold ultimately, to be at the prejudging and to stay in the first call out in the middle with Ramon. Of course, I knew I looked good, but I also thought, well, this is Ramon's competition to lose. Maybe if I beat one of those guys who beat me at the Olympia a few months ago, it would be nice.
Wesley,
But
sorry to interrupt you. I just want to know what is in your mind at the moment you're on stage. So, or backstage. So I understand what you're saying in terms of going into the show, you think to yourself, because I know the way a mind of a competitor works. You're like, okay, Ramon's the favorite. Ramon's probably going to win. Ramon's second at the Olympia. I hope I can get ahead of Urs and get compared with Ramon, but I probably won't beat him. Okay, let's say that's your mindset going in. And then when you're backstage and you're looking and you're pumping up, or when you're on stage and you're next to him, are you thinking at any moment in those times, I look better than he does? Like, did you feel that or no?
yeah, to be honest, when I was backstage, I know in my physique I could see certain details, like in my quads. If I know those details are there and they were there very much, I'm like, okay, I know I'm on point.
Right,
And I did not see the same details in the other guys.
right,
Like I knew at least my conditioning was at least on par or even better than pretty much anybody there backstage. And I was like, is it is it because they don't look as good as normal, or is it because I'm looking better than usual?
hmm,
But even then, you never know what it's going to look like on stage because you're like, well, maybe they're not really trying backstage, not really flexing as much as I would on stage. So I'm like, okay, I'm not sure. But
yeah,
once I got on stage, I had, for my feeling, I had nothing to lose. I was very confident with a big smile. Standing next to Ramon, I was like, okay, now I'm standing next to him. No, I really got to show everything I got.
yeah,
But to my surprise, they didn't move me out of the way. They kept calling me back with him. And then I
right,
was like, okay, now I really got to show what I got because this might be my only chance to
right,
beat him, to
right,
even have a chance to be first or second. But at the moment I walked backstage again from the prejudging, that's when I realized, wait a second, I never got away from Ramon from the middle. Urs never got moved in the middle. So that means I'm at least second place. I
right,
didn't even realize this on stage because to me, it went so quickly and so unexpectedly that I ended up so in such a high placing
yeah,
that backstage, that's when I started to realize, and that's when my coach also came to me from, uh, like with actually Hani Rambat was backstage as well because he, with Hardy and Derek, experienced the same thing as my coach Stefan experienced with Urs and me.
yeah.
Because now, first Urs was above me, and now I'm above him. And then with Hardy
The
and
same
Derek,
thing.
it was the same thing. So they were.
Yeah,
Stefan was telling Hani like, "Oh, now I know what you. Now I know what you felt like
yeah,
at the Olympia." So I
yeah.
was like, whoa, is this really happening? Is this really going to happen? Am I really going to beat these top guys right now? So, and that's when I knew for the finals, we got to really bring it. But that's really what my feeling was at
Yeah.
that very moment.
That's incredible, man. What do you think? So after that, after experiencing that and kind of validating your career in a way and saying, look, I'm as good as these guys and better, walking into the Olympia, do you have a different mindset? Like, do you have a mindset where you're like, obviously you have a mindset now where you're like, okay, I know I can beat Ramon, I know I can beat Urs, I know I can be in the top five. I've already proven that. But when it comes to Chris, do you still have that same mindset you had going into the Arnold against Ramon, or do you feel differently knowing that anything can happen?
Well, I said in an interview before the Arnold this. I said it's not just going to be, okay, Ramon is going to win and who's going to be second. I said it's going to be a battle.
Right.
I'm going to make sure it's going to be a battle. It's not just going to be an automatic first, like, usually when either Ramon at the Arnold or Chris at the Olympia goes on stage and they look good, you're like, okay, they're winning.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. It was like, okay, they're going to win. Number two, that's going to be the battle. Who's going to be number two?
Right.
But now I'm going to say the same thing. I'm really confident that the battle I'm going to give at the Olympia will be Chris's toughest battle so far in his entire Olympia career. Because I've proven I can beat Ramon. I've improved from the Olympia. And the only way for Ramon to really beat me is to improve so much that's not realistic anymore.
Yeah.
Because I also improved. I'm more conditioned, better proportionate. Presentation will be better. So my goal is just to show that on stage. Let's just forget about anything that could go wrong because that's can happen to anybody in terms of holding water or stuff like this.
Yeah.
So let's just filter all of that out.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
So Chris, you never know how he's going to show up. He didn't show up at his best at the last Olympia. He showed up at his very best at the year before that,
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah.
So if he shows up like that again, or even better, yeah, that's going to be a very interesting battle for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, my mindset is I'm going to go there, not just to say it, but I'm actually going to go there to go for the victory.
Right.
Because I really do think deep in my mind that it's possible to beat him. And it's not an impossible thing anymore. It's not him. He is the champion, and there's no one who can touch him because now the closest battle he has had is Ramon, and I beat that guy.
Right.
And some people say, oh, it was only 1 point, but other people say it was quite a bigger difference than
Decisive.
just,
Decisive. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it was quite decisive. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe him or no, it was quite decisive. And then the Arnold Classic UK afterwards, I actually won with a perfect score against Brian, for example. So I'm very confident that with the shape I'm going to bring this time, it's going to be at least more difficult for Chris than ever before
Yeah.
for everybody who has ever faced him. And then the last thing is he's also never really stood next to somebody like me who is actually for the first time ever taller and bigger than him.
Yeah.
Because they always say, oh, Chris looks like an open bodybuilder. He looks super big. But that's when he's alone because he's like he has that kind of silhouette where
Yeah.
it gives also the illusion, which bodybuilding is all about, that he's like, of course, he looks incredible.
Right.
He is a 5 times classic physique champion. He looks huge. But I'm always like, yeah, you guys are saying that, but I know what I'm capable of as well. And when I'm standing next to him, that
Right.
hugeness will
Yeah.
disappear. And pretty much nobody else in the whole field can do that to Chris. The
Yeah.
only thing they can do, like for example, I'm then thinking about the other extreme of Rough Diesel. They can outshape him, maybe outcondition, outpresentation him, but not outsize him.
Right.
But that's the only thing that I do have over Chris. And if I then also do the same thing with the other stuff, like the presentation and the conditioning, and just make sure that I stand my very best next to him,
Yeah.
I just don't see why there wouldn't be a chance for me to get that victory as well. So that's
Yeah.
really how I look at it.
Yeah.
And why not? Why
Right.
not? I've
Right.
proven it at the Arnold Classic already. So why not use this mindset, this momentum to go into Olympia
Yeah.
with this kind of thinking?
It's funny that you said that because I actually thought the same thing. When he's been very dominant in his victories, but everybody who's been second to him has been a much smaller person.
Yeah.
Either smaller in bone structure or shorter or both. And it allows him to kind of tower over them. And with his bone structure and muscularity, it's just too imposing.
Yeah.
And I thought that when you're standing next to him, the thing is, you're going to be bringing something different.
Yeah.
It's not like you're trying to beat Chris at Chris's game.
No.
You're saying, hey, here's a different standard.
Yeah.
Now let's look. You have two guys who are the same height or whatever, similar height, and you have two guys who are similar size. Which shape do you like better? So I actually feel like it will be like I do agree with you 100%. It is his toughest challenge because the size is no longer going to be a factor.
Mhm.
I do want to say one thing though, because you turned pro in 2018 and you did become very popular, and you said something about trying to get in to the top echelon. You've put on a lot of size over those 6, 7 years. Like your body, I feel like your structure overall hasn't changed, but because you filled in, your lats sweep very wide from the front, your quads are dense from the front, your arms look incredible, your back has got great shape. So I think adding all that mass is just all of a sudden come to a head where you've almost like built out the perfect physique, because even though you had this shape coming up, the added muscle has made the symmetry of it more pronounced.
Yeah. Yeah. It's literally you have a bone structure you start with, and you gotta build on top of it, around it, to make it more and more pleasing.
Right.
And you gotta classic physique, of course, with the weight limit, you have to choose where will I put that muscle without going over the weight limit and maybe preventing myself from creating the perfect physique for this class. So that's what I've really been trying to do over the years, is still showcase that classical vintage look with the modern conditioning and proportions that they want to see nowadays in
Right.
in bodybuilding.
Right.
Because you can't be like the 70s guy. That's not possible anymore. So
Yeah.
you gotta find like the balance. And that's, it's still called classic physique. So it's like I still want to show that classicness, that goal and errorness, but then with incredible conditioning and with a better lower body than they had back then. And I do think when you've got that package, it's going to be tough to beat in a class like this, especially when you are like imposing and tall. And as you say, it's not about outsizing anybody anymore, especially since that's what Chris automatically did. And then you're like automatically almost like, okay, he's going to win. But
Yeah.
now it's like, which shape are they going to go for?
Right.
Yeah, that's going to be a preference, but it's also going to be each individual's athlete's job to persuade the judges this is what it should be and not that.
Yeah. You know what I love the most about your physique is you still do all of the 70s poses.
Yeah.
Like nobody can pull this shot off the same way you do. And I think it's a big, like, it's a very big bonus for you, like to be able to do these shots. Cause I don't know if I see anybody else doing these shots, or at least if I do, I don't see them as well. Especially like I'm looking for your 3/4 twisting shot. That's
Yeah, the back.
yeah, like this is from the front is obviously
Yeah.
a signature for you, but there's a back shot this one
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
that looks really good on you. There's another one that you do that's very pleasing. Like your presentation. How much time do you spend practicing presentation?
Yeah, like those classic shots, I spent like hours upon hours upon hours before. And I used to be a terrible poser. I used to be like a
Really?
lanky, yeah, robot
Oh, I didn't know that.
poser. But I have the footage, I still have it. So I recorded myself with my phone like years ago when I did the Arnold Classic in 2016 in Europe.
Yeah.
I knew it was the Arnold Classic, so I had to do some good Arnold poses.
Right.
So I slowed down Arnold Schwarzenegger's posing routine to like 50%, 25% speed, and see how does he get from the front double bicep and the 3/4 back double bicep? How does he move?
The
And
transition.
it
Yeah.
took me a long while to figure out, okay, first the legs, then the hips, then the arms, and move the fingers first out and then in to make sure everything comes together.
Hmm.
And that's just one transition. And then you got all those other transitions. And then, of course, you make some transitions of your own.
Right.
And that way, I made it my own as well, because you don't want to be a copy of him, but he served as an inspiration for me
Right.
back in the day, because I knew our physiques were, at least in those poses, quite similar. So
Yeah.
why not make use of that? Because as you say, no one is doing it because they can't hit it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as I almost say, when you can't hit it, when you don't have it, don't hit it.
Yeah.
But if you do have it, why
Yeah.
not show it?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing now, and that's a unique thing you got to have as an athlete. If you're just doing the typical bodybuilding poses the whole time, what makes you really stand out? What gives you
Right.
the X factor as an athlete in classic physique?
Right.
And it's
Right.
called not classic bodybuilding, but actual classic physique.
Right. Well,
So
you're, yeah.
you gotta play with that.
Listen, you're 100% right because one of like even just to my eye as a fan, right? When you hit those shots, my eye's drawn to you right away because it's something different. It's something that
Yeah,
it's something that we've all seen because we've all seen Arnold hit those shots. So
yeah,
we've all seen shots that are like that. And I think it's almost like a sentimental thing. Like, hey, there's somebody doing that stuff. Nobody else is doing it. So you're right. It kind of gives you your own little signature to stand on stage with. I want to cover one other thing before you go because I've kept you on quite long. I apologize. I know you're 2 weeks out or
of course, no
less.
problem.
Um,
Yeah.
I just want to show everybody, if you aren't following Wesley already, Wesley Vissers on Instagram. And also, this is his company page, Vintage Gym Best. If you're listening on audio, it's all one word, no dots or anything. Vintage Gym Best is his company. This is your clothing company, or do you do anything else?
That's
I know.
this is actually our gym.
Oh, this is your gym.
So
I'm sorry.
yeah, our gym used to be 100% fit gym, but we actually expanded our gym with Gym 80 equipment, like 40 extra machines, all in golden era style, vintage
Nice.
style equipment. I
Nice.
used to work out in a gym with only dumbbells and barbells and maybe some machines, but now it's like only just machines. Like we didn't have a back machine, for example. This is the first prep where I've used back machines. I
Yeah.
used to only do the cables or lat pull downs, but now we were having actually a lot of machines as well. So that's always very nice to see that the effect of those machines really have a big impact on your physique, especially during prep.
I've used some Gym 80. It feels like Gym 80 is more popular in Europe.
Yeah,
I've used some Gym 80 equipment. I love it. It's actually very like
it's
very well thought
the
out.
the range of motion is what sold it for me. It's like
Yeah.
we had a leg extension from the 80s, like with a chain and a leg curl,
Yeah.
but the range of motion was severely short for
Yeah.
what I need. I'm a tall guy, so I need to set it extremely to get an extreme stretch.
Yeah.
And none of those machines you can max out in terms of the weight or the range of motion. So I can
Right.
just hammer down my muscles to the max, and yeah, nothing will go wrong. And you can actually use less weight with better range of motion this way, and
Mhm.
it's just been a blessing.
Are you sorry, now when I would go back and I apologize, I didn't know this was your gym. I thought it was you were doing you had a clothing company at one
Yeah,
point. Or you still have it?
my it's vintagegenetics.com. So that's my clothing company.
Is it on
Yeah,
Instagram or
it's
no?
yeah, official Vintage Genetics is the Instagram.
Official vintage this one
Yeah,
here.
that one.
So all one word, official vintage genetics. This is your clothing company. So
Yes.
this is some of the stuff you'll have at the meet and greet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's you.
Especially
I love
the
pictures like this.
Olympia. Yeah, the Olympia t-shirt. But we're selling a lot of the oversized stuff, the drop armhole tank tops, and the golden era stuff from back in the day, and of course some more modern iterations of what people like to see nowadays. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been great because I started this company in 2016, and that's back then especially. The people buying the merchandise allowed me to make the investments to go to all those competitions. So it
Right.
literally was a win-win situation. People got their stuff, and I got then the financial means to be able to go to all those countries and then record it for my social media. And it just kept going like this. So it's been an amazing thing to be able to do.
Yeah. Some of this stuff is really nice. Like I like this shirt.
Thank you. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
do you do the designs yourself or do you have somebody who does the designs?
I used to do all the designs myself. But now I'm just using a freelancer.
Yeah.
I know a very good one who I use ChatGPT first
Yeah.
to give a mock-up design, and I'm like, okay, make something like this, but then with these characteristics, and then you get something incredible.
That's awesome.
Like this shirt, for example,
Yeah.
like the Cepacol. I don't know if you heard about
What's
this.
Cepacol? No, I don't know what that is.
The Brazilians,
Yeah.
after I beat Ramon,
Yeah.
the Brazilians started calling me Cepacol. And I was like, what the hell is Cepacol? I couldn't Google it. I couldn't search it because it was a Brazilian culture thing.
Okay.
But it's like a mascot, which was on the Brazilian TV as a commercial of like a throat tablets for your throat when you have a sore throat. It's like the guy holding it, and the guy is Cepacol and the brand as well. But he looks like me. He's like a big chin, big jawline, like the same hair.
Yeah.
And he's like standing like this, like Cepacol. And then a coach, like one of the most popular coaches in Brazil, he called me. He said after winning the Arnold Classic, he said, "Cuidado como Cepacol," which means watch out for Cepacol, because don't ignore him anymore. Watch out for him from now on. Just be careful.
Right. I like that.
And it went like a train through whole Brazil. And now people don't call me Wesley. They call me Cepacol. Every time, if you sometimes look at my pictures on Instagram, that guy.
This guy. You don't look like that.
No, but you know, they just found it funny.
It is funny. It's hilarious.
Because of the chin and the jawline.
That's funny. That's amazing.
But they thought at first I would take offense to it, but then I'm like, of course not. I love being made fun of. This is I love that stuff. So I actually turned it into something that I'm now selling, and every Brazilian, at least until now, loves it. That I'm embracing their culture instead of like rejecting it. So stuff like this I also sell on the website. Awesome,
man. Well, listen, Wesley, I appreciate you taking the time, especially this close to the Olympia. I wish you the best, man. I'm not sure, but I might be at the press conference. They've asked me to do
I saw your name.
To be there, to be one of the media guys there. So hopefully I can make I'm supposed to have some meetings for HOSSTILE that day. So I have to see if I can move them, but hopefully I can be there.
Would be awesome, man.
Yeah, I'd love to see you guys up there and be part of it. But listen, I wish you the best, man. Thank you very much for coming on. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate being on. And the Olympia is going to be great, guys. If you haven't got the live stream yet, this will be the battle of the century for the Olympia. Let's do this.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you.
Bye-bye.